Hello world, welcome to Fulani Scientist channel, and today I'm going to introduce you to the central dogma of biology. And here is the picture in the upper right hand corner of the guy who actually proposed this dogma based on information that him and many other scientists discovered to be true. So in science, one of the fun things is that not one person discovers everything. But when they learn from others, when others go halfway, then the others come and add a little bit, and then another comes and adds a little bit. And then eventually some guy puts it all together and gets all the glory. But the process is the flow of how genetic information from the DNA is translated into protein. And we see the result in physical traits. So if you have beautiful long hair, red hair, ginger hair, blonde hair, that's the trait we see. But we all have the same DNA. However, how that DNA gets translated is the question. And so the central dogma states that DNA gets transcribed or made into RNA, and then RNA is translated into protein. And so if you look at DNA can go through a cycle called replication. So it makes a copy of itself before it can be transcribed, or it just makes copies of itself to do other things. And RNA gets translated eventually into proteins, but RNA gets processed a lot. There's a whole field on RNA processing in RNA biology. And then proteins. So proteins are the workhorse of the cell. Proteins do all the work, according to Mr. Penguin there. But DNA gets all the glory, because DNA is the starting point. Without DNA, you won't have any protein to translate. So DNA is the main guy. DNA is the language for life. Every living thing has DNA. And so welcome to the central dogma. I hope you liked this short video, and I hope you learned something new. And to make it fun, I prepared another slide to make it more tangible. It's an analogy to making cupcake. I hope you like it. So here is the central dogma, but now I'm using cupcakes as my proteins. So the central dogma, or the DNA, again here is the cookbook. So we're baking, and the cookbook has all the recipes that can be made. So your DNA has all your genetic code. All the information about you is in your DNA. The code is all there. And so you have DNA that tells you to be short, have red hair, blonde hair, brown skin. And so all the information is there in the cookbook, in the DNA. And then the DNA, or the cookbook, contains messages that can be read. And those messages are RNA in our case. So we have RNA. And in that cookbook, there's a recipe for cupcake. And there could be a recipe for donuts, or a recipe for gingerbread men. So the RNA is the messenger, it's the middleman. So the DNA has all the recipes, remember. But the RNA, there's over 160, over 100 different types of RNA. So 100 different types of DNA. I apologize, 100 different types of RNA in the DNA. So once the DNA gets transcribed to RNA, or the cookbook with the cupcake recipe, these recipes, these RNAs, can be translated or made into different products. So you can have a recipe for chocolate chip cookie. You can have a recipe for cupcake. You can have a recipe for the gingerbread man. And so the recipe tells you what you're going to make. So then once you make this cupcake recipe, you have a cupcake. Hopefully you followed all the instructions, all the protocol, or the ingredients, and you have a product, a beautiful cupcake with a cherry on top. So that's the protein. When the RNA gets translated into protein, that's translation. So now the message, the RNA, or the cupcake recipe, has been translated into a product, cupcake, or protein. Now, a bunch of these products can be functioning together, working together, and as they do in our cells and tissues. So inside our cells, there's different cellular processes happening. We have different tissues, soft tissues, nervous system tissues, so your neurons, your blood cells, and these tissues work together to make organs. And so you have your heart, your lung, your liver, your brain is an organ, your skin is the biggest organ in the human body. And so they work together. So a collection of products working together is what you get as a treat. And every bakery has a delicious assortment of different baked goods. So think of biology that way, like the baked goods store. So the interesting part about my research is RNA processing. So RNA goes through a lot of steps, and sometimes before it's translated, it has to be trimmed. It has to have think of graduation. You have to put on a graduation cap, a graduation gown, and some maybe high heels so you can, flaunt your style. And so RNA gets processed a lot before it can be translated. So I hope you enjoy my brief introduction with you to the central dogma of biology, using cupcake analogies and using the actual central dogma terms, DNA to RNA to protein, and that protein can be seen as a physical trait. And so I hope you remember the central dogma, and I hope you like this short video on the central dogma. Thanks. Peace and blessings.